instrumental good is only a good that obtains something else. So money is an instrumental good. Money has no value in itself. It only has value because we agree a certain amount of it will get you a certain amount of stuff. It's an instrumental good. Nobody can say thou to their money. So if I've made this gentleman here an instrumental good, don't kid yourself, or rather try and be a tad discerning about what it is I'm saying. Because if when I say thou, I mean you are useful to me, when I say thou, I mean you give me a good experience, that's the same as trying to say thou to money. You cannot say thou to money. Money is an instrumental good. You get it? So, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah?
So they won't stop him collecting things and then to turn to someone for love to happen.
Yeah.
But do you need both people to turn at the same time? Or what happens if one person stops what they're doing?
Yeah.
I mean, with God, you just assume that God is always in love. But if it's two persons, doesn't work? One keeps going, the other is open to love.
Yeah. It's a good question. This is why he says love is the holy fire in between. So I can be, and by the way, when love breaks in, it's always a surprise. It's never because I say, oh, I'm going to fall in love with Rick. You know, it doesn't work like that. If I could do that, I would be manipulating Rick. That's just, it doesn't work like that. So what happens is in real life, maybe we're on a project together or we're talking, we're having a cup of coffee and suddenly Rick the man is before me. Not the guy who's going to help me get a job done, but he's there before me. Now, that doesn't mean to say that Rick sees, wow, here's Graham before me. So I can see the beauty streaming out of this face. And the owner of the face doesn't necessarily see that. Nor do they necessarily see beauty streaming from here. So in a sense, I'm saying love can be one way. Love's about being caught in the holy fire. That makes sense? Now, it's a whole lot nicer when it's mutual, but it doesn't have to be mutual. And Buber would say, you can have that with a cat. I've never actually experienced that with a cat. One of my favourite books was 101 Uses for a Dead Cat. And my favourite one was to have it stuffed down and put a pencil sharpener up its butt. I gave the book to my daughter who loves cats, didn't work. Buber says you can have a moment of wonder with a tree.
Yes. He does talk about environment.
That's right. Yeah.
So it isn't just about people.
Yeah.
And I've read other people and I've experienced those moments, and it shows you how much time you spend not experiencing those moments in the environment.
Yep. In fact,
he's not saying a tree can be the thou.
Sorry?
He's not saying a tree can be thou.
Actually, he is. He's saying that that tree can somehow or another be the presence of all the wonder of all creation. Now, he's not saying that tree is God. It's not that at all. But that tree can plunge you in the holy fire. It can take you out of your agenda and plunge you into the holy fire where you burn with the presence of the present one. That's Buber's language. I was a bit shy about tonight because you can't do the back end of Buber without talking God language, but so I apologise. What are you going to do? Sack me? But for me, if I'm dry, if in myself I'm dry, and my world is made of things, I find it very helpful to go and sit on a rock near the ocean and think, I'm not going to get up from here until the vastness of this body of water, somehow or another, seeps into me. And it's not just the vastness of it, it's the turgid, dynamic, dangerous nature of it. Tells me of thou and plunges me into the holy fire. And until I am in the presence of the present moment. Now, I could use that language without being religious at all. I hope you can hear that. I mean, I am being religious, but you can use that language and still have this conversation. Lucy, where did we get to? What did I? Oh, really? Dementia is a cruel thing.
Have you got any more of those?
I can give you this one when we're done. Really? This is a cracker. Page 139. When I first read this, it stopped me in my tracks. And I think I could read it again today and there'd be still more in it. If we can get to the end of 142 before we're out of time, I'll be pretty happy with that. So, can you start at 139? I'll probably stop you at various times. Is that all right?
This is very difficult to read.
Sorry.
It's not normal. That's my excuse anyway. What is the eternal, primal phenomenon present here and now of that which we term revelation?
I can't resist this. What he's asking now is, if in the course of the day I actually meet Rick, in a way that all that I know ceases to be, and all I know for a time, in a moment, in an event, all I know is this man, and the goodness of this man, somehow or another, fills the heavens. Now, it's not that I can't see other people, but suddenly I see them in the light of Rick. Have you ever had such moments? Okay. So Buber's now asking, what happens when that happens? That's the question. You all right with this? Okay, keep going. Thanks, Lucy.
It is the phenomenon that a man does not pass from the moment of the supreme meeting, the same being as he entered into it. The moment of meeting is not an experience that stirs in the receptive soul and grows to perfect blessedness. Rather, in that moment, something happens to the man.
Now just let these words impact on you. Because 99% of the people in the church that I know don't know this. The moment of meeting is not an experience. It's not located in here. That stirs in my soul and grows to perfect blessedness. It's not like I've got a little flame in here that I need to fan and push into a state of blessedness. It isn't that. Rather, it's a moment when something happens to me. It comes from outside. It doesn't come from inside. Now, you've been told, and your parents were told, and your grandparents were told, and probably the generation before that was told, that the kingdom of God is within. Big bloody hoax. Grace, when it comes from outside. Sorry, keep going. Go.
The grace comes from outside. The understanding most of us have is that in
he does admit that sooner or later this grace leaves something in me, and that's this current discussion. And sooner or later I will become aware of that, and I will know that I am warmed somehow, and I'm more alive because we met. I could have just got on with my day and met my deadlines, but because you somehow impinged into my day, I'm more alive. He's asking, what is that more alive? What is that?
Residue at the moment.
Yeah, and he would also say, I will eventually have an experience, but by the time I've had the experience, our meeting is over. Get it? Go to see.
At times it is like a light breath, at times like a wrestling bout. But always it happens.
Always it happens. Keep going to see.
The man who emerges from the act of pure relation that so involves his being has now in his being something more that has grown in him, of which he did not know before, and whose origin he is not rightly able to indicate. However, the source of this new thing is classified in scientific orientation of the world, with its authorised efforts to establish an unbroken causality. We, whose concern is real consideration of the real, cannot have our purpose served with subconsciousness or any other apparatus of the soul.
Hallelujah. All the terms of psychology will not help you with this. I mean, they make sense, and I can speak psychology. I'm at least trilingual. I can speak that. I have a fair working knowledge of psychology, and I know that we can talk about subconscious and egos and all kinds of categories to try and explain what happened between you and me. And what he's saying is, you can do that, but these words are absolutely priceless. But we whose concern is real consideration of the real cannot have our purpose served by some subconsciousness or any other apparatus of the soul. The reality is that we receive that we did not hitherto have. And we receive it in such a way that we know it has been given to us. I was given something. Now, most of the world don't know this. Most of the world think that some kind of faculty in me has been awoken, and that you triggered something in me, and the phenomenon that I go on to describe is about me and in me. And I miss that what happened here is I was given something. It came to me from outside. Get it? If you struggle with it and it feels foreign, that's fantastic. Because we're trying to overcome a culture where you have been enculturated to believe that certainty depends on your experience. Okay.
But where did you put it?
Sorry?
Where did you put this thing?
Good question. It's coming in the next paragraph. Where did you get your loose? The reality is?
Yes.
Go from there, I love this. Go again.
Okay. The reality is that we receive what we did not hitherto have, and receive it in such a way that we know it has been given to us. In the language of the Bible, those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. In the language of Nietzsche, who in his account remains loyal to reality, we take and do not ask who it is there that gives.
Okay. That verse from Isaiah, hardly anybody understands. They who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. The whole point of that scripture that says, it says that those who look out, that's what wait upon the Lord means. In other words, it's not those who have their heads up their bums who shall renew their strength. It's not those whose head is in their belly button analysing moments past, who shall renew their strength and mount up with wings as eagles. It's those who look out, who have some chance of finding grace, because grace comes from without. This is not some inner thing that I fan into blessedness. It is looking out. And then he quotes Nietzsche saying, and Nietzsche, you know, is not the most religious man in the world, famous for saying God is dead. He says, we take, but we dare not ask who gives. Nietzsche is pretty cool, actually. I quite like Nietzsche. He was kind of the first philosophical terrorist. And, you know, that's kind of cool, especially for a German writer. You know, most German writers are going to kill you with logic. You know, they're just going to write and write till you submit. Whereas Nietzsche gets in, lets a bomb off and goes out. And this is one of his bombs. You know, he says, we do receive from without, but we just don't ask where it comes from. That's very cool. Next little part. I'll stop you after a sentence because it's too good.
Man receives, and he receives not a specific content, but presence, and a presence as power.
Okay, that's it. What did I receive? I received presence. And that presence is a power that trumps power. Everybody understands power, the power of power, because you understand a fat wallet and a sphere of influence and status. Everybody understands the power of power, but the power of presence is power. The power to be with is power. And it's a tricky power because it gives you the capacity to name the power of power for what it is. And what the power of power is nothing other than a cutting off, a hardening, a cessation, a inability to be human. Every act of power is a hardening of that which needs to be supple. Every act of intimidation comes from someone whose needs are being met by taking that which cannot be given. Does that make sense? If I take what this man has to offer, I can't receive what's there to get because I can only get it when it's given. That's why it has to happen. That's why I have to turn. Because it has to be a gift. There has to be a giver. And what am I given? I'm given presence. And that presence is power. It's the power to make me see through power. Nobody's throwing anything at me yet. Yeah.
No, I'm not sure. I'm starting to struggle with what presence is. It's like professionalism. It's like, you know, respect. What is that?
Good question. And the answer comes.
Oh. 2 days away.
Let's see. No, keep going. Because the next page and a half answers that question. And it's a surprising answer.
So,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is you only get in giving, or in the presence of the giver.
Presence is always a gift.
Yes.
You can get anything you like.
Yes.
You can get it. But it's only what's given to you. You know, in a sense, the tree can give itself to you. But you can get the tree. You can look at the tree and say, that would make a great table and chairs. Chop it down, the tree just became your instrumental good. It's good, but it's only good to make a table and chairs. It doesn't give itself to you. See the distinction? Keep going, Lucy, and we're going to stay with your question.
This presence and this power include three things: undivided, yet in such a way that we may consider them separately. First, there is the whole fullness of real mutual action, of the being raised and bound up in relation. The man can give no account at all of how the binding in relation is brought about, nor does it in any way lighten his life. It makes life heavier, but heavy with meaning.
Whoa, stop. First lesson about what is present. First lesson is it doesn't make my way easier. In some ways, to meet this man makes my way heavier, but more meaningful. Meaningful. So I have to live now in the light of this man. And so my way is, if anything, heavy is not a bad word. It's funny, you know, people sometimes ask, what's the meaning of life? You know, trying to be funny, thinking I'm going to say 42. And the real answer is that if we meet, the question goes away. Suddenly, I don't ask that question, and everything becomes meaningful. That's just the first part of the question. There's more to come.
That's where that word flourishing that others have brought up, which isn't about happiness at all.
It's not about feeling good.
Sides of that, doesn't it?
It's not about feeling good. It's not about feeling anything, actually.
So is that meaning in life?
To be in love? Yes. To be a loving...
To have that presence, to be...
Yeah, to be a loving, flourishing human being, which means that we be together, makes the question of meaning go away. You don't need to ask me. Keep going, because there's more good stuff left.
Secondly, there is the inexpressible confirmation of meaning. Meaning is assured. Nothing can any longer be meaningless. The question about the meaning of life is no longer there. But were it there, it would not have to be answered. You do not know how to exhibit and define the meaning of life. You have no formula or picture for it, and yet it has more certitude for you than the perceptions of your senses.
See, the question's gone away, but you've got nothing to say about it. Because it's not a thing that you know. Get it? The meaning of life is not your object. You can't say things about it. So the question's gone away because you're living meaning, but you can't say anything about it because it's not a thing.
Is it that you no longer need to ask the question?
You certainly no longer need to ask the question. You're full of life. Ask anybody who's head over heels in love with somebody, yeah, but what's the meaning of life? They don't give a rat's ass. They're living in it. Keep going, Lucy, it gets better.
What does the revealed and concealed meaning, purpose, with us, desire from us? It does not wish to be explained, nor are we able to do that, but only to be done by us.
How good's that? In other words, life is a verb. To talk about life as a noun makes no sense in the discussion. Life is a verb. It can only be lived. This meaning can only be lived. When it becomes a noun in your sentences, you are not talking about life anymore. It's only meaningful when it's lived in human action. Keep going, Lucy.
Thirdly, this meaning is not that of another life, but that of this life of ours, not one of a world yonder, but that of this world of ours, and it desires its confirmation in this life and in relation with this world. This meaning can be received but not experienced. It cannot be experienced but it can be done. And this is its purpose with us. The assurance I have of it does not wish to be sealed within me, but it wishes to be borne by me into the world.
Okay. This gift of presence is not a presence that makes my way lighter. And it's not something about which I can be an authority, because to be an authority on this means you don't know what you're talking about. So it can only be done. It can only be done. You know, in the Lord's Prayer, it says, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be explained. Thy will be reflected upon. No. Thy will be done. It has to be done. So this can be received but not experienced. By the time you have any experience, it's already over. It cannot be experienced, but it can be done. And this is its purpose with us, and this is logical. This is the assurance I have. It does not wish to be sealed within me, because that would be its death. But it wishes to be borne by me into the world. I have the gift of presence. How could that possibly work except that the present be given again? And we become present. That's what it means for it to be done. This is a truth that can only be done. At this stage, most philosophers in the world think Buber has lost his mind. I think, skip the page, Lucy, and go to 1.2, that.
That before which, in which, out of which, and into which we live, even the mystery has remained what it was. It has become present to us, and and in its presentness has proclaimed itself to us as salvation. We have known it, but we acquire no knowledge from it which might lessen or moderate its mysteriousness.
Hello. So this gift explains nothing. It does not make me a smart ass on any ground. Anyone who thinks, wow, I've got this, I know what presence is, now you need to read John's Gospel, chapter 3. What? You can't be an authority in this, because presentness doesn't take out any of the mystery of what it means to be a human being and fully alive, fully functional. The mystery remains. It's just that you know it. Get it? If you could explain it, you don't know.
There's some irony in that statement, given that your teaching is about it.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's more than a dash of